All right, hi everybody. Happy Friday. What's going on? It's getting a little chilly here. We had, I think summer is officially gone here. It's been very, very cold. A lot of rain. We had to cancel football practice yesterday. So we'll get started here in just a minute. I'm just going to scan through here, see what kind of questions we have going. My man, Landon Hicks. You're from Pickerington, right? No, I'm just kidding. It's crazy that I recognize so many names. I think it's because I go into the comments so much on the videos. Holy cow, there is a lot of questions out here. Man, oh man. Yeah, absolutely. So I hope everybody is doing well on this Friday. I'm going to give you some updates. So first of all, football. My kids' team is now 6-1. For you, the meanie that yelled at me for losing 7-6 and said my offense was not that good, we won 35-0 and then 21-0 the next two games. Our offense is just fine. I put in a jet sweep double reverse, and we scored the first time we tried it. So the kids are doing really well. They do have a very tough game tomorrow. We're playing a team in the second round of the playoffs that we barely beat the first time. So we have our work cut out for us tomorrow. But we're having fun, and now we're preparing once the season's over for the All-Star tournament here. For those of you who are football fans, you're going to really dig this. So the number one high school in the nation is Mater Dei in California. So look up Mater Dei in California. They are really good. I mean, really good. So I met a guy who actually is part of their staff through Granite Supplements, actually. It was just kind of weird how it worked out. So I think I get a chance to go out and talk to maybe one or two of the coaches out there and sit down with them and pick their brain about offense. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I do want to give a health update as well. I haven't announced anything on any of my social media about this appointment. Have I even talked to you about it? I don't think I have I? I haven't even talked to Noah about it. So I have some very good news that I'm very happy to share because most of the news I've been getting the last few months has not been good news. So you may remember that the last appointment I had, basically what I was told was the heart attack I had damaged so much of my heart that I had no movement in the apex of the left ventricle. That's the bottom of it. So I had a blood clot there, and then my ejection fraction. So what that is your heart expands and blood comes in, and then your heart contracts and blood goes out. Normally, 60 to 65% of the blood that goes in comes out. That's when you hear 65% ejection fraction, that's normal. And mine was down to, it was supposedly at 30%. So that's not good. And you're at a risk for having all kinds of cardiac arrhythmias that can actually be fatal. So if you guys can imagine having somebody tell you that, it's pretty scary. In fact, it's real scary. I actually kind of developed a sleeping disorder from it because I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't know if I'd wake up or not. So fast forward, I got a new cardiologist. The guy I mentioned was the original cardiologist in the hospital. But anyways, I got a new cardiologist who came highly recommended here, supposed to be the best around these states, very, very well-known guy. So I went to see him. This was Wednesday. So was that 2 days ago? 2 days ago. So I went to see him. Stephen Yakubov is his name. So I walked in to see him, and the first thing he said was, "John, you're a very unique case." And when I heard that, my first reaction was, yes, finally someone's not lumping me into the category that I'm 75 years old, I have 5 other health problems, that I have a terrible diet, I'm lazy, or whatever kind of things can be normal. But I was happy to hear that. He said, "You're a very unique case." So I thought, okay, we're off to a good start. So we're talking, and I'm giving I'm giving him some history. I have my folder with every test I've taken, and most of it he'd already seen and reviewed. So he said, so I was expecting him then. I was happy to hear that, but then I was kind of expecting him to say, yeah, I mean, you're in a really tough spot. But he didn't. He said, I want you to come into my office. So we left the waiting or the area, the exam area. And I went back into his personal office, and he had the CD of my echocardiogram in. And he said, I just want you to see some things here. So he pulled it up, and he said, so first of all, your arteries are clean as a whistle. So again, if you're giving me dietary advice, you don't really need to. I literally have 0 plaque in my arteries, but he was very happy about that. And he said, now I know that your ejection fraction was low, but there's also the matter of how easily your heart pumps blood and so forth, the heart pumpability, and he had some other names for it. And he said, by the looks of this, your blood flow is normal to me. Like, it looks very normal. And I was like, are you sure? Like, that's not what I've been hearing. He said, well, your left ventricle is a little thicker. And for those of you who are a little more educated in this, you've probably heard of left ventricular hypertrophy for athletes, runners, any athlete, or somebody who trains a lot typically has a little bit of left ventricular hypertrophy in their heart. So it's a little thicker. So if you can picture a heart, and if the walls are a certain thickness, a certain amount of blood will go in, but if they're even bigger, then a less amount of blood will go in, then a less amount of blood will go out. So he said, you do have what I would consider athletic left ventricular hypertrophy. It's very consistent with what we see in athletes. Okay, that's good. And he said, again, the blood flow coming out, I don't see any issues with how the blood's coming out. Your heart's not struggling. He said, I understand you don't have any side effects at all. You're not tired. You don't have any of the normal side effects, right? And I said, no, I don't have any. And that's why this is also puzzling to me. He said, well, your heart is handling whatever you do, training or whatever, your heart is handling it just fine. So I said, okay. And then we did an EKG, which monitors the electrical activity in your heart, polarization, repolarization of your heart, muscles, and things like that. And he said, I can see you had a heart attack. And he showed me on the EKG. He said, but he started looking at Q waves. Those of you who have a medical background, you know what Q waves are and Q intervals. And he said, this is all totally normal. He said, the electrical activity in your heart's normal. The blood is pumping normal. And from what I can see, I think that this is very positive. I think you're heading in the right direction. So I was very happy to hear that. I was extremely happy. Dr. Serrano had pretty much told me those exact same things. And he basically had told me that some of the cardiologists I talked to didn't really understand my individual situation. So it was very good. I'm very happy to share that news with you. I haven't posted it anywhere yet, but let's just say I'm sleeping a lot better at night now. I feel a lot more positive about my future. It's not going to change how I live my life. I'm still going to do my best every day, try to be happy and contribute in a positive way to the world. Love my family, but it is a lot of stress relief for me. So, and we can die at any time, right? I mean, I could walk out the door, get in the car, and something could happen. I could have another heart attack. Who knows? But, I'm not going to live in fear, and that certainly helped. So I wanted to share that with you all. So hopefully those of you who are following me and following my journey, hopefully that's good news for you to hear about me. So, what else is going on? So, Chicago Pros today. I got Josh Wade in it. Josh is, as you know, the consistent conditioning guy. He'll be there tomorrow. He's ripped to the bone as usual. And I have a really good friend of mine that I work with, Andrew Berry, that's competing in Chicago as well. Not in the pro part, but he's going to do really well in the amateur part of the show. Andrew's an awesome coach and an awesome competitor himself. So this is going to be a busy weekend, and then we have that football game tomorrow. So anyways, that's a little bit of getting you caught up and what's going on. And I see I got some questions that are rolling in here. All right, I got to figure out how to get to the viewer activity. That's right. Okay, I see 3. Let me get these 3. Please do a 2-minute spill on SARMs. Thanks for the awesome supplements. SARMs, there's conflicting amounts of evidence on each one of them. Like if you look at ostarine, you can find a lot of research on that, but a lot of them, there's Zippo research. So I hear a lot of people saying this one works good, this one works good, and this one works good, and they may, but there's not a lot of research on most of them. The one that has probably the most, though, is ostarine. So ostarine is one that I used in the past. I used it when it's still, the legality thing is weird. It was completely legal. And I think it still is legal to use, but you can't sell it under the premise that it's a nutritional supplement, because it's not a nutritional supplement. It's classified as a drug, I believe, or something like that. It's really weird how that all works. But I did have good success with ostarine. I worry about them just because I don't know what side effects could be down the road. Some of them affect your liver values a little bit more than others. Some of them, just about all of them, affect your lipid panel. That'd be your HDL and LDL and all that stuff. So I don't use them now, and I haven't. But if I was going to use one, I would probably use ostarine, just because it's the most researched, and you can take very low doses of it too. Something like 5-10 milligrams was all I took a day. But a lot of them, there's just not a lot of research on them. There's one of them called MK677. Actually, I don't even know if that's a true SARM. That might be a growth hormone secretagogue. But that one actually, I remember, made me hold a ton of water, a ton. It was the only thing I ever took that made my blood pressure go up. So I wasn't real crazy about that one. But ostarine is not bad. The LGD one, I don't know that it has a ton of research on it. I think it had a little bit of research on it. But anyways, I'm certainly no expert on SARMs. That's just my 2 minutes. Advice for a female hypothyroid with an enlarged thyroid: how to combat negative body composition changes, how to eat on thyroid meds, training advice given such low energy. Okay, if you don't fix the hypothyroid, I'm going to take that to mean she's producing a low amount of thyroxine. That's only part of the problem. So part of the problem people with thyroid issues have is producing actual T4, thyroxine. And you can see in blood work a lot of times when that's happening, you'll see a really high TSH. When your TSH number starts getting in the high 2s, 3s, maybe closer to 4, 3 or 4, I'm always like, whoa, we got an issue here. Because what that reflects is your pituitary has to work really, really hard. It has to really push your thyroid hard to make thyroxine, which is kind of the raw version of thyroid hormone. And then once it's T4, not all of that becomes active in your body. It has to convert through a process and become T3, which is a different chemical structure. What happens when you diet is the T4 conversion to T3 actually gets inefficient, and that's how your body slows your metabolism down so you don't die. So like when you're cutting calories, that T4 to T3 conversion will get worse. And that's why you see so many competitors supplement with T3. The ones that are supplementing with T4, they're probably not very wise. Generally, they don't know what they're doing unless there's an issue with the pituitary making T4. Normally, the issue is the T4 to T3 conversion. So what a coach will do is say, well, I'll just supplement T3. So there's no need for conversion. And it works. It does work. It's just a double-edged sword, because a high amount of T3 can also cause a little bit of muscle wasting. So a little bit is interesting because it increases protein synthesis. Your metabolism stays up. You get leaner. But if you go crazy on it, now you can start hurting your thyroid. You can do some damage to it. But the scary thing for a competitor is your muscle will start wasting. It'll eat everything. Uncontrolled T3 dosing, man, eats everything. There's guys that I've seen compete. They're big and full, and then they start cranking on a T3, and you see them at the show, and they just look all drawn. There's no muscle left. And usually when I see that, they're either way over dehydrated or they just went crazy on their T3. But your question is negative body composition changes. Well, you're going to have to work with an intelligent doctor to figure out the correct thyroid dosing for her, whether it's T4 or T3. There's natural thyroid. It's called MP thyroid. That's actually a blend of T4 and T3. Your doctor may want to look into that. But you're not going to beat it with your dieting and training. A bad thyroid is you're not going to be able to overcome it. You need to have her talk to a very good doctor that understands endocrinology and the thyroid itself. And if she has low energy, that's a very bad thing. It's a poor quality of life. You don't want someone. This is why I have an issue with people who bag on people that take replacement testosterone. Like if you've ever had low testosterone and you know how that feels, you would never want someone to live that way. It's a very poor life. You feel terrible. I've had it. That's why I have to take it. If I don't take any, that's how I feel. I feel terrible, and my level goes down to between 50 and 60 nanograms per deciliter, and the range is 250 to, say, 800, I'll just say. So I'm at about 1/5 of the bottom, and I feel terrible. And actually it predisposes you to all kinds of cardiac conditions and blood sugar issues and diabetes. But anyways, so she needs to see a doctor to get that thyroid fixed. No way around it. There's no diet you're going to put her on that's going to help. You can eat all the kelp and seaweed you want, all the seafood you want. You can get all the iodine you want, but it needs to be fixed. What do you think about cow's milk and that it potentially increases your estrogen? Are there any negative aspects of cow's milk? I use Fairlife milk because I'm lactose intolerant. I actually got some Fairlife milk yesterday. I don't have an issue with cow's milk unless you have an issue with cow's milk. If you have a lactose intolerance and you take it and it makes you feel bad, then don't drink it. I personally have never had an issue with it. Now, I know what people say. It gives you inflammation and your skin breaks out and things like that. Well, then that is true for some people. So my advice to you would be then if you get skin rashes or your skin breaks out or you feel inflamed, then don't drink it. Use almond milk or use oat milk or something like that instead. But not everybody has those issues. So to blanketly say cow's milk is bad, and I really don't like we're the only species that drinks other milk. I really don't like that. I mean, we're the only species that makes protein powder and mixes it and peanut butter and eats it too. So that's kind of a silly argument. The bottom line is how does your body handle it? I think eggs are good for you, but some people have an intolerance to eggs. So should I tell them to eat eggs too? Obviously not. So you just got to do what's good for your body. Now, I used to be a big proponent of raw milk, actually. I'm trying to think, I think rawmilk.org used to be the website. Like 12 years ago, we were drinking a lot of raw milk. And actually, my kids started drinking it when they were 1 year old. They weren't allowed to drink it until they were 1, but once they were 1 year old, they were drinking raw milk. But you have to go to the farmer's place. You have to see because the equipment, the milking equipment, everything, it has to be spotless. Everything has to be inspected. You got to make sure there's no pathogens and all that stuff. But true raw milk that still has the lipase in it, not the lipase, the lactase, digestive enzyme in it. In fact, I had several people. One of them, a good friend of mine, Todd Buchanan, was really lactose intolerant. But he would go to the farm with me and he would get the milk, and he never had an issue with it. With raw milk because it still had the lactase enzyme in it. So I don't, and this whole thing about increasing estrogen, I mean, it might because regular cow's milk, a lot of the cows are treated with antibiotics and all kinds of weird chemicals and everything. I mean, I try to get organic cow's milk. I try to get it from cows that have been grass-fed, but to be honest with you, when you're in the grocery store buying something and I see it on the label, it's really hard for me to trust it. Like, the organic part I probably believe, but the grass-fed part, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. It's just hard for me to believe them. I don't typically trust what I see in grocery stores that often. So, but it was so far for me to drive to get the milk. I was driving every weekend for about an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back, and I could only get 2 gallons. So it was a long drive to get 2 gallons of milk, and that's all I got. So anyways, okay. I can't get a pump in my triceps. I can't get a burning pump in my triceps, not even with top sets. They just suddenly stop producing force when fatigued. Is this a problem? And what's the solution? Well, if you have big triceps, it's not a problem. It's working just fine. But if you can't get any growth out of your triceps, perhaps it is a problem. I don't know what you're doing or what you've done, so it's hard for me to tell you you're doing something wrong when I don't know what you're doing. But what I would say is, what I would combine, try this one. If you've ever seen me do the the dual rope tricep extension. So you know how people do rope push downs? If you've ever seen, go to my dual rope tricep push down exercise index video on this channel, and you'll see that I actually hook 2 ropes up so I can get a little bit further back into my push down, get a little bit further back in the elbow extension. Go to failure like that, and then put your hands out in front of you on the ropes and put your hands together and lean forward and take the ropes to your forehead and just drive straight down. So you bring your elbows back into extension, doing the tricep push down to failure till you can't do anymore. And then when you can't do that anymore, then you bring your hands in front of you and you tilt down and you just drive straight down and you just pump them to failure. That gives me probably the worst burn of anything I do in my triceps. And it's just because I'm extending the set by then moving my hand. The push down where your hands are going back won't really burn. It'll just fatigue you. But then when you put your arms out in front of you and you drive the 2 ropes down, that's when it'll light you up. But I want you to try that. That's something that I use when I'm just trying to get a crazy pump in my tris. And I think it's effective too. That's one of my favorite things to do. So give that a shot. Okay. I got all those covered? All right. What else do we have here? Let me scroll down here and go back up. My age? I am 48. I assure you I'm not 70. And that's not very kind of you to say that either. 75? Yeah. I'm 48. You know, it's funny how the internet works. So on my Instagram yesterday, I put a video up of me doing a pendulum squat. And I had a pretty fair amount of weight on there. And Sergio Oliva Jr. made a comment. He said that, basically that's really good. That's a lot of weight, And my Instagram post was to just say that I believe in doing a full range of motion on like a hack squat or pendulum squat for quad sweep. I think that's a great way to build quad sweep. And so Sergio says, man, that's a lot of weight. And then a couple of people said, well, it's not as much as Dusty or trained by JP. I was like, man, you guys are brutal. I'm 48 years old. I take 100 mgs a test a week, and I had a heart attack in May, and you're comparing me to 2 of the strongest dudes in bodybuilding? So Dusty and JP got a laugh out of that. But like, man, this is a tough crowd. Wow. I just saw this. Hey, John, how's keeping size on 100 milligrams? That's what I take. I just kind of stay level. Like, I'm not getting bigger. I'm not getting smaller. Although I will tell you guys, I'm about 210 to 212 now. When I went into the hospital, when I had my heart attack, I was about 225. So I've dropped down to about 210, 212, and now I'm just kind of staying right here. My strength is kind of staying the same. But I feel really good in the gym. I have no limitations at all, actually. I've been training really hard. Hopefully you guys watched the videos I did with Chris. Like, that back workout was phenomenal. We went really hard on that back workout. Chris Zano I'm talking about. Really good guy. I hope you guys enjoy the videos we did with him. I think we still have several more we haven't posted yet. And I still, for those of you guys who watch Seth Feroce, do me a favor and just send Seth a message and just say I'm really looking forward to doing a workout with him too. So Seth and I are planning on putting some stuff together for you as well. We just got to make it happen. Seth had a tricep injury and I had a heart injury, we'll call it. So we're just trying to get a little bit better so we can crank really hard in our video for you. Oh, okay. So you guys know, you knew I was going to get the question. What is the question that drives me the most crazy of any question I get? How do you fix imbalances? Every week I tell you that question drives me nuts. If you have one arm that's a quarter of an inch bigger than the other, it's not a big deal. If you have a leg, one leg is bigger than the other by a quarter of an inch, it's not a big deal. If you have an 18-inch arm and a 15-inch arm, that's a big deal. So any tips on muscle imbalances? I appreciate you asking the question. I appreciate you watching. So I am going to answer your question, even though it drives me nuts, because I appreciate you. Agos Oza. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Do more with dumbbells. So when you're training your chest, for example, if you've got one pec bigger than the other, which I do, then do more dumbbells. One side can't make up for the other. If you've got one bicep bigger than the other, do more dumbbells. One side can't make up for the other. It's as simple as that. There's no magical solution. There's no magical do a bunch of extra work on one side. Just make the muscle work by itself and don't let other muscles help it. That's the best thing I can tell you. People want to write novels about how to fix it, but really it just comes down to making the muscle work by itself and not get help from other muscles. So how's that work? So hopefully that helps. Two more. A and K. How many months does it take to increase test levels from 300 to 800 naturally? Age 31 with cuts off here. All with no pre-medical conditions, have a vitamin D deficiency. So Dr. Serrano would freak out on you. He hates to see vitamin D deficiencies, and with good reason. The last round of blood work I did, if you watch that video, the one thing, actually I don't even know if I mentioned it, the one thing that was messed up was my vitamin D. I have a hard time keeping my, just been a pale white dude, I have a hard time, and not living in a tropical climate, especially non-tropical today. I have a hard time keeping my vitamin D levels up too. Now, vitamin D is interesting. So you don't have to take it every day. It's fat soluble. And a lot of people just take all their dose for the whole week at once. So let's say you want to take 5,000 units a day. You could just take 35,000 units, which would be like 5,000 unit capsules at once on, like, say, every Sunday, for example. So that's what I started doing. But I'm at 10,000 units. My vitamin D doesn't really move until I go to 7,000 units. My 7,000 unit dose will start moving in the right direction for me. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing a couple weeks at 10,000 a day. So I'm doing 70,000. I did it last Sunday. I'm doing 70,000 units this Sunday. And then I'm going to take it down to 7,000 a day, which will be 35. So 5,000 times 7, 35,000 on Sundays. Now, if you're afraid of vitamin D toxicity and all that, show me one person that's got it. Good luck finding them. Nobody gets toxic vitamin D levels unless maybe you live in Alaska and all you eat is certain kinds of fish. But other than that, there's nobody probably watching this that's ever going to get toxic vitamin D levels. It doesn't happen. So fix your vitamin D is my point. Increasing test levels from 300 to 800 naturally, I got to be honest with you, it's probably not going to happen. I do like zinc. Some red meat can help. You want to have healthy fats. If you are suboptimal and due to a diet deficiency and then you change your diet, you can bring your levels up for sure. It's particularly with healthy fats. But if you're already following a healthy diet and you've got healthy fats in your diet, you've got plenty of zinc from red meat, you know, avocado, extra virgin olive oil, EFAs, and all that good stuff. If you're already doing all that, you're probably not going to be able to raise your test levels much at all. You're definitely not going to be able to raise them 500 points, 500 nanograms per deciliter. That is not going to happen naturally. Now, unfortunately, people ask me all the time about test boosters. Test boosters are basically garbage. If there was a test booster that worked, don't you think I would have it with my supplement line? There's no good ones. You know, maybe if you have terrible levels and you have an issue, maybe if you megadose some of them, they'll help you a little bit, but mostly they're smoke and mirrors and they're just a way for supplement companies to make money. And if I do find something that I believe does, because I've tried them all, but if I do find, I've tried D-aspartic acid, I've tried everything you can think of, Tongat Ali or whatever that's called. If I do find one that works well, you better believe I'll bottle up and I'll sell it. But until then, if you ever see one, you know I found it. But until then, I'm just not a big believer in it. I'd much rather see you have a diet full of healthy fats to impact your test levels. I'm right-handed, but my right bicep seems to be smaller or less defined than my left. What should I do to fix this while adding strength to both? You know, the interesting thing about muscle size. So my right arm is a little bigger than my left arm, but my left biceps I'm talking about, but my left bicep is much stronger. My pecs, this pec right here, my left one, is bigger than my right one. Guess which side's stronger? My right one. So it just goes to show you that the muscle that's weaker, that has to work harder, is usually the one that's more developed. And there's this debate about intensity, training to failure, and all that. What I would say is, hopefully you guys watched Jeff Nippard's video. The intensity does matter. It does matter, and I see that on many, many people. And when I tell them what I find, they're like, oh yeah, that's how I am too. This one side that's bigger is actually weaker. But it's an interesting thing, because if you think about getting stronger, it's usually laying down larger muscle fibers or expanding the size of muscle fiber. But in reality, I see so many people where the weaker side is a little bigger because it has to work harder, whereas the bigger side doesn't really have to work as hard. So, it doesn't grow as fast, which I just think is really interesting. Someday we'll probably figure that out. But you're going to have one side that's a little bit smaller and weaker than the other. And the other thing you said, it seems to be smaller or less defined. I have that too. If you watch my videos, the left arm, the brachialis is much more prominent, and you can't really see it as much in the right arm. My pecs are the same way. I have more lines in my left pec than my right pec. My legs are the same way. I have more striations in my left quad than in my right quad. In the left quad, they're on the vastus lateralis. In the right quad, they're on the vastus medialis. So, I don't want you to worry about that. This is pretty normal. And especially the more you develop, the more you'll see these kind of slight imbalances. It's incredibly difficult, and it's probably more genetics, where people are perfectly balanced and perfectly symmetrical. So I wouldn't sweat it, man. I really wouldn't worry about it. I would just keep training hard. And like I said, if you want to use more dumbbells so the muscle has to do the work itself, I would do that. So don't sweat it. What's your opinion on, it went flying up from all the questions. It was cheat meals. Was there a new one? Oh, Oliver. How many sets of direct ab training for a good core for powerlifting or power building? That's a good question, Oliver. So I like the fact that you said direct ab training. I see so many people talking about squats and deadlifts developing your abs. And I'm like, you know what? If I want my abs to develop, I'm going to train my abs directly. So first of all, you're on the right page there. So as a power lifter, you probably don't care about having the real teeny tiny svelte waist. You probably don't care about that. You probably just want a powerful midsection. So when I was training at Westside Barbell in the 90s, we actually did the old school incline weighted sit-ups. Now, Louis had a really cool machine where it actually had a cable, and you held the cable and the weights were behind you, and you actually added weight behind you and you sat up with the weight. It was a really cool machine that allowed you to do weighted sit-ups. But we did a lot of weighted ab work. And the other thing we did was, if you throw a band over top of a power rack and you hold the band like this, you can crunch downward toward the floor. We did a lot of those as well. Those were the two primary things we did for abs. Now, in terms of sets, I always felt like if you did 3 or 4 sets 3 times a week, that was pretty good. Like, that's plenty. You don't need to do a 12-set ab workout. Same thing with calves. Like, you don't need to do a 12-set calf workout. So, Oliver, I think if you do 3 or 4 good sets, some weighted incline sit-ups, some band crunches, if you do that, like maybe you do the incline sit-ups on Monday, Wednesday maybe do the band crunches. The other thing I would say for lower abs, I really do like leg raises. I know a lot of people say, it's all just your rectus femoris, your iliacus, and all the hip flexors. Well, it depends on your technique. It depends on how you're doing it depends on what you're doing with your lower body. If you bring your legs up into like a downward L shape, like you put your femur, the upper leg straight out, and you let your legs hang down, and you leave them like that, and you just curl your body up like this, with your lower abs, it's a great leg exercise. It's a great lower ab exercise. Now, if you let your legs hang straight down and then you pull your knees up, then yeah, you are going to engage a lot of hip flexor. But I would say this, what's wrong with having strong hip flexors? So all these people are saying, don't do leg raises, it's all hip flexor. Well, no, it's not. It's still a lot of ab work if at the end of the movement you kind of drive your knee in your chest and you reverse crunch your body. And yeah, it is some hip flexors. So what? It's a good thing to have strong hip flexors. So I would say, Oliver, just to wrap up the question, incline weighted sit-ups on Monday, 4 sets, band crunches on Wednesday, 4 sets, and then 4 sets of leg raises on Friday. I've been considering hiring you as a trainer. What does it entail, and how does it work over long distance? Well, I'm not really taking new clients right now. I work with a very small amount of clients. I do that intentionally so they can all get a lot of focused direction. And So the first thing you have to do is basically get on a waiting list. And generally from there, it's 6, 8, 10 weeks. But in terms of how I work with people, I mean, I don't want to waste everybody's time on here, but we do weekly updates. I put everybody's diet in a spreadsheet. When I make changes, I add a new tab to it. I highlight the changes. The client has to send me a certain set of data every week so I can make decisions with their pictures. Everything is customized. The meal plans, there's a huge questionnaire you got to fill out. So it's very thorough. All right. Did I miss any? Another one from A and K.
Thanks for the answer. After supplementing 5,000 IUs of vitamin D per day, I feel much better.
Oh, okay.
Soreness after workout, much stronger.
Okay, so A and K, another question. You're doing your 5,000 units of vitamin D. You feel better. That's good. If you have a chance to get your labs checked again, get them checked again, you might be able to bump it up even more. Okay, I don't see the question yet, but it'll pop up here in a second.
It means his T levels are up.
Your T levels, are they up? Maybe, maybe not, but you're doing nothing but good things by getting your vitamin D levels up. I can't say for sure, but you're definitely doing the right thing. Do you coach people that compete or don't compete? Or yeah, some people compete, some people don't. I don't really care about that, honestly. I just care about they work hard and they're serious. Why do my shoulders hurt when doing the final reps of a bench press? If I had to guess, I would say you're letting your sternum cave in and all that stress is going along your AC joint out to your shoulder. You've got to keep your sternum elevated. Try doing some slight decline dumbbell presses, and I think you'll have zero stress on your shoulders, and you'll see what I mean about keeping your chest up. Because if you're on a slight decline, it's a little easier to do that. If a person wakes up at 4 a.m. and takes their pre-workout and goes to train on an empty stomach, what can you advise them? First of all, the pre-workout's going to hit you really hard because you don't have any food in you. And that's not a bad thing. I can't even handle, I can barely handle 1.6 grams of beta-alanine. I'm super sensitive to it. And if I even start to sip a little tiny bit of beta-alanine on an empty stomach, my whole face feels like it's on fire. My ears, everything. So at least you're getting a lot out of your pre-workout. Now, having said that, I would still probably have a little snack on the way to the gym, or I would have an intra workout drink while you train, unless right before you went to bed, you had a big meal. If you have a big meal before you go to bed, then you're good. You can train on an empty stomach in the morning. But if you didn't, I would highly advise you to get some nutrition in you before you train or after you train. It doesn't need to be a big meal. It could just be a shake, a little shake. It could just be a banana and a whole egg. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything big. But I personally don't like for people to train fasted unless it's early in the morning and they had a big night the night or a big meal the night before they went to bed. Okay. Wouldn't fasted cardio be muscle protective since natural GH is supposedly higher in the morning before it gets blunted by eating and spiking insulin? That's what it sounds like logically, but absolutely not the way it works in real life. Do you have higher levels of HGH when you fast? Yes, they come up a little bit. But is it anything that would actually protect muscle? Maybe a little bit of protection of muscle, but not eating is catabolic, period. If that were the case, then just don't eat. Don't eat for 2 days. You're going to have massive spikes in your GH. See how much bigger you get. I guarantee you won't get any bigger. This is one of those deals where people take science out of context because they don't actually live it. So no, training fasted is not going to make you bigger because of a GH response. Okay. Here's a good question. A big meal the night before training fasted, will that interfere with sleep? That's a fair question. It can. If it starts causing blood sugar fluctuations, it can. Maybe I shouldn't, you know what? I probably shouldn't have used the words big meal right before you go to bed. Like for me, what I'll have before I go to bed, I'll have like a bowl of cereal. I'll have like some rice checks and some almond milk. That's obviously not a big meal. But what I hate is being hungry when you go to bed. It's hard to sleep when you're hungry too. I can't fall asleep if I'm hungry. that was always the hardest part about dieting for me was if I did get hungry at night, I knew I had to eat something or I wouldn't be able to sleep. Because if I didn't, I would just lay there in bed, tired but not able to go to sleep. Jakara Mitchell, what's the best program to offer for lower body growth? It's the same one you already have, and you know it. It's the Omega Sentinel. Now, having said though, so the other thing about the meal before you go to bed too, the carbohydrates are also good too, because they promote the precursor, serotonin, that'll help you sleep. So you just have to kind of find the right size meal, I think is the way to sum it up. The new pre-workout. Okay. So the new pre-workout, there's two. Let me show you. You guys can probably see this one. So this is the non-stem one. I actually had this done in April, and it's just now coming out. It just came out 2 days ago. That's how long it takes these manufacturers to make products sometimes. So this was done in late April, and it's just now hitting the shelves. That process takes forever sometimes. Anyways, this is the non-stem version. If any of you watching this know a lot about pump ingredients, you'll be very impressed. So yeah, it's got the 6 grams of citrulline, which is very, very good. It's also got 254 milligrams of Vasodrive. Vasodrive is a really crazy ingredient. If you look it up, it's a meal peptide. It's made by a company called Maypro. That's who makes the raw ingredient. If you go to, I think, maypro.com, you look up a meal peptide. Your body, when you dilate your blood vessels, your body will secrete a hormone to bring your blood vessels, it's called vasopressin, back to normal size. Well, this actually slows that process down, so your blood vessels remain dilated. In fact, that ingredient, the way we found it was being used to treat high blood pressure to keep people's blood vessels open so more blood would flow through. It's an amazing ingredient. We were the ones actually that brought that to the market. Then it's got the nitrates in it, 2 grams of nitrates. Nitrates are phenomenal. They work as well. Then the grapeseed extract, that kind of conditions your vascular system to start the process. This is an amazing, and this is cherry lime. I also have a candy flavor, but we sold a ton of it yesterday and today. If you want to try it, if you've never tried any of our products, Granite Strong 25, Granite with a capital G, Strong with a capital S, and then 25 gives you 25% off. All one word, Granite Strong 25. If you're a returning customer, just type in any of our athletes like Missy 10. You guys love Missy. Missy 10 will get you 10% off. But so that product does not have stems in it. It's just purely for massive pumps. And I would invite you to compare my ingredients with any pump out there, any product. And in fact, please do. The other one that you may be talking about is the GX, a Grand Extreme pre-workout. And that one has the citrulline in it and the nitrates, but it also has a stimulant component where it has a little bit of caffeine, a ton of teocrine, a ton of lion's mane extract. So it has all the nootropics and stimulants in it. But a lot of people like train in the afternoons, so they don't want to take it in the evenings after they get off work because they can't sleep. Or maybe they just don't tolerate stimulants well. So that's why I brought out the non-stem. But if you're okay with the other stuff, the GX, the stimulants, it's more nootropic than it is stimulant, which I like better personally. I don't like to feel like my heart's about to explode out of my chest, particularly now these days. So that's the difference between the two. What is your peak week protocol? Do you have your athletes use diuretics? I very rarely have anybody use diuretics. I think I've probably had, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 people compete in the last 2 years, different people. And I would say maybe in 2 cases, I had them use a little bit of a diuretic, maybe half a Diazide. But generally what I do is I steady their water early in the week, whether it be 6 liters, 7 liters, 5 liters, 8 liters, whatever it is. And then I keep their water the same, and then I play around with it on Friday to achieve a look that I want to achieve. That's the only thing I do for water manipulation. I don't typically do crazy loads, but when I do a crazy load, it's 2 days before. So then the day before, I pull back and let their body dry out. So the 2 day before approach, ensures that they're glycogen loaded, their muscles are full. But I don't do it the night before a show unless it's somebody with a raging fast metabolism. Normally it's going to be on a Saturday show. The big eating day is probably going to be on a Thursday. And then on Friday we pull way back just to ensure they're nice and dry. And they're not doing anything except resting and chilling out. So they're not going to burn through all the carbs that they ate on Thursday. Okay. All right. Some more questions here. John, what do you think of insulin mimicker sups intra-workout like Ignite 3 or Matador? I do like GDAs, glucose disposal agents. I do think they're very effective in people that have issues. I like the basic ones though. Like I like ALA, alpha lipoic acid, or you could get the R version. I think it's really good just by itself, and it's cheap. It definitely pulls glucose out of your blood and puts it in muscle cells. It definitely helps with that process. Berberine is a little different. It's a little different mechanism. It's not as acute in its response, so it doesn't happen real fast. This is why I laugh when people say, I'm having a cheat meal, but I'm taking my berberine with it. Well, berberine works like metformin. It follows the same pathway. So it builds up in your body. And the way it works is it actually changes your gut flora. It doesn't really directly initially impact insulin receptors on the cell or anything like that. So you got to kind of get it in your body and get it working. Berberine's not real well absorbed, so you just have to take a lot of it. But I do like insulin mimickers. Now, if you're shredded and you're ripped and you probably have good insulin sensitivity, is it going to help you a lot? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I will tell you this, though. I do like insulin mimickers to load carbs with people. I do think it impacts the ability to load carbs. I think it's very effective. The other one I like is Simulin. That's a cinnamon extract that's really standardized well. You can't eat enough cinnamon on your oatmeal to simulate it, but Simulin is really good. Berberine is solid. It's a different pathway. Alpha lipoic acid is good. And then you've got things like vanadium, but it's not as good as the old vanadyl sulfate. The little SoPharma blue capsules. We used to carb load for every show with those for the last week. Gymnema sylvestri is one that has a pretty good effect, but so I do like insulin mimickers. I do think that there's value there. So yeah, I would say give it a shot. I like to take them before I train, kind of like you're taking insulin, but you're not really taking insulin. You're just simulating the effect a little less intensely. But you could also take like alpha lipoic acid any time of the day, and it also gives you an antioxidant effect. In fact, alpha lipoic acid is called the universal antioxidant because it's water soluble and fat soluble, and it recycles antioxidants in your body. It's a really good thing. 900 milligrams a day would be good. If you're going to take it before you train, maybe take 600 milligrams before you train and 300 after you train with your post-carb meal. Okay, you are renowned for use of drop sets on isolation movements. In a 6-day push-pull split, would you save for late in the program or use all the time? That's a very good question. I actually got to think about that. Well, normally early in the push-pull workout, I'm doing more compound movements. So I would say I would save them for later in the workout. But like if you're starting with, say, incline benches and something like that, then that's not what I would do drop sets on. I would typically use it on a machine or something where your joints are safe and you can go all out. Just go nuts. Just go crazy for one set. Can I take type 2 collagen daily, lifelong, as I do heavy lifting? What is the correct dosage? Any side effects of UC2 collagen? Good question. I love UC2 collagen. It's awesome. It's actually the primary ingredient in our joint care formula, which is out of stock for the next 2 weeks because we can't keep it in stock. It's a very, very popular supplement. Yeah, UC2 collagen is very, very good. The correct dose is 40 milligrams daily. If you go to PubMed, type in UC2 collagen, and you're going to see a ton of studies done at 40 milligrams. And you'll see people's range of motion improving. You'll see their perception of pain improving. You'll see all kinds of benefits from it. And yes, you can take it year-round. No problems with that at all. Okay, Elijah Harris. I started my cut on 2,350 calories, my protein at from 0.8 to 1 gram per pound, but the scale isn't moving. Can I take it? Can it be a recomp? you started your cut on 2350. That's pretty low for a 232 pound dude. So if you were starting at 2350 and you're 232 pounds, man, that's pretty low, my man. I'd like to have seen you start your cut more on like 3,000 to 3,500 calories personally. So I'm not sure why your metabolism's that slow, but you may have to get down to like 1,600, 1,700 calories, but then you have to do refeeds. You have to, or you will absolutely destroy your metabolism temporarily. So, I mean, you got two choices. You can keep going down with your calories, which is going to keep the scale moving, but you're going to get to a point where I call it no man's land, where you can't go any lower with your calories. It's just very, very bad idea. Usually for men, depends on how big they are, but it could be anywhere from 1,600 calories to 1,900 calories. And then you have to put in refeed meals. You have to tell your body, we're not starving, it's okay. Or you can gradually work your calories back up to 3,000 or 3,500 over the course of the next, 3 months, and then start coming back down. So you've got a choice there, Elijah. I would do one or two of those things. I don't know what your body composition is, so I can't really tell you what I would do personally. But I can tell you that starting your diet at 2350 for a guy as big as you, that's pretty low. You don't have, if you drop your calories 10%, you're already down to close to 2,000. And that's only one change. I usually like to get, 3 changes in at 10%, 4 changes maybe. So that's not giving you a lot of wiggle room, bud. Okay. Here's E Rose. I gained 30 pounds over 6 months late last year, and I started to train February 3rd, but I still can't seem to burn my love handles or get my abs prior to a show. Well, you're going to have to lower your calories. Unfortunately, just like I just mentioned, you can't magically lose weight all of a sudden unless you start taking thyroid or clenbuterol or things like that. You're going to have to lower your calories, period. Now, I'd probably lower carbohydrates if it were me, but I would still keep the carbohydrates in around training so your training sessions don't suffer. You want your pre- and post-workout carbs and intra-workout carbs to remain there. So, but other carbs, I'd probably pull those out. All right, what else we got here? Okay, Gabe. Just wanted the chance to say I respect and love listening to you for your advice. Well, I appreciate that. Your easy question. What's your favorite song to lift to? That's good. I'll tell you what I really like, but no gym ever plays it, is I like soundtracks. Like Hans Zimmer. You ever listen to Hans Zimmer? So Hans Zimmer did like Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, he's done so many soundtracks. Like, I guarantee you've listened to his music before. But I like the really powerful movie soundtracks. Transformers is one of my favorite soundtracks. My favorite soundtrack is probably Crimson Tide. That was a movie with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington. It was a great movie, by the way. I tend to like movie soundtracks. The other thing I like is old 80s and 90s rock, Guns N' Roses and all that kind of stuff. I will admit I do really like that stuff too. On the way to the gym, believe it or not, I usually listen to religious music. I usually listen to a Christian radio station. I just find it puts me in a good mood. And then when I get to the gym, I tend to want to hear the powerful stuff or just the get crazy old Guns N' Roses stuff. Okay, Peter, my diet consists of 90% ground beef and turkey for protein. Am I missing out on anything by not eating whole meats? No, you're fine. I mean, I would rather see you have more sources of protein than 2, but they're complete sources of protein. I mean, it's not bad. Beef and turkey are both complete sources, so it's not like you're going to have an amino acid deficiency or anything like that. I think you're fine. I would personally get bored if that was all I was eating. I'd like to see a little bit of fish in there. So that's one thing to think about. Where are you getting your EFAs? Because normally you would get them from like salmon or... So if you're not eating any omega-3s, if you're not taking any omega-3 supplements, then you're probably going to want to look into that. But other than that, I mean, those are complete sources of protein that I have no issues with. Try to get some salmon in there, though, if you can. Get those essential fatty acids. Okay, did I get them all? All right. Okay, I'm going to take a couple more, and then if you guys can hear that funky sound in the background, it's Alexander warming up with his yo-yo. So we're going to have some yo-yo tricks. John, what do you think of desiccated beef liver? Apparently old school bodybuilders took massive doses of it. We did. I was one of those guys. Beverly International used to make Argentine desiccated beef liver. I will never forget taking 30, 40, 50 tablets of that a day, full of iron, all this stuff. I think it's okay. I never really noticed anything big from it. I think if you had a really deficient diet, you'd probably notice it helped a lot. But if you've got a good diet, I don't know. I used to diet so hard I would chew those tablets up, and they tasted disgusting. But I would chew them up just because it was something with some taste. And I know that's gross, but thoughts on aramistane as a PCT for 8 weeks of Osterine? I'd probably just do a little bit of HCG, 2,000 units every other day for a couple weeks. Probably Novadex, 20 mgs a day for 4 weeks. That's pretty much all you would need for Osterine. Is 2 hours and 30 minutes too long for training upper body? Well, I can't imagine you're training really, really hard if you're training for 2 hours and 30 minutes. There's got to be a way you can bring that down and train a little more intensely. So for me, probably yes, it probably is too long. Okay. There's 2 more. Okay. Okay. Excellent work with Josh Wade. If you guys ever fly down to Tulum, you have a gym to work out at. I appreciate that, my man. And I don't know with this travel ban. Well, it's not really a ban now with the weird way travel is. I don't know. I'm not sure when I'm going to be traveling, honestly. I plan on going out to the Olympia in Las Vegas in December, but that's the only thing I have on my travel schedule right now. But I appreciate you, brother. Oh, and Rod, right? I reached around 5,000 calories of clean food, went from 163 to 185. What should I do now? I'm 5'11", body fat around 20%. So 20% is pretty high. You're definitely due for a cut now. I'd probably start with a 10% decrease in your calories. So if you're at 5,000, that would bring you down to 4,500. And I would run that, and I would run it until you aren't making any more progress. Then I'd probably bump it down another, say, 300 calories. And I'd let that work. And then when that doesn't work, I'd probably go another 300 calories. To get where you need to go, you're probably going to need to lose about 30 to 40% of your calories. So you're probably going to get around, 3,500, 3,000 calories will get you down into something decent. And then if you want to get like crazy shredded, you'll probably have to go a little further than that. But that's a good job getting your calories up that high of clean food. That's not easy to do. So I commend you on that. But at 20%, definitely time to come down now. All right, I think that's all another one came in. Let's see. All right, okay, long. Is there a sweet spot for caloric surplus to just build muscle, not putting on fat? How do I keep track of a lean bulk? I mean, the problem is most people don't even know their maintenance. So you've got to find the amount of food that keeps you kind of neutral. Then I think if you go 300-400 calories above that, I think you're fine. I think if you start going 500, 600, 700 calories, the higher you go, the more likely you are to put on fat. Obviously, chemicals change that equation a little bit, but just for a natural guy that's working hard, I think once you find your maintenance, 300 or 400 calorie surpluses are fine, in my opinion. So, you guys ready for some yo-yo tricks? All right, Alexander is back. So Alexander, come on over here. We'll get some yo-yo tricks before we wrap it up for the day. Oh, and don't forget the non-stem sup. Granite supplements, Granite Strong 25. All right, we're getting Alexander set up here, guys. He's getting better and better. The skills are getting pretty amazing. Holy cow. Hit another one. I would ask for any special requests, but I don't think people know what your. Keep going. Can you do some of the horizontal stuff now? Is that pretty hard still?
I need my other ear to do it, but I don't have this one. I learned this.
What's that called?
Boingy boing.
What's it called?
Boingy boing.
Boingy boing is what that's called? All right, we have a request here. Let's see walk the dog. Can you walk the
We
dog?
have a carpet right here.
Yeah, so we have a carpet right there. So here comes walk the dog. There it went. Special request, walk the dog.
And then
Any other special requests? You have tons of walk the dog requests here.
wait, do you guys want to see a trick I did like in January, really early this year?
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
So this is brain twister.
Brain twister.
Whoa, double it.
That did twist my brain.
And then I have this one. It's not too good. Right?
Do you know one called the wagon? There's a request to do the wagon.
No, I don't know that.
Don't know the wagon?
I might know it, just not by that name.
Okay.
So this is
Do you know one called Rockabye Baby? What's Rockabye Baby do that when you got a request for that? There it is. There's Rock the Baby. Oh, we got another special request. Around the World. Okay. We got another one. Skin the Cat.
I don't know that one.
Don't know Skin the Cat? You have a glow in the dark yo-yo?
No.
Okay. Someone's saying it'd be cool if you had a glow in the dark yo-yo. Do they even make those?
Yeah.
They do? Okay.
I think they have a glow in the dark wedge.
All right. We're going to find a glow in the dark. Do you know one called Greasing the Groove?
No.
Yeah. I think that's a made up name. All right. Couple more.
Let me see. This actually. I want to do like. So boom, boom. I was trying to whip into a negative 2.0. I have. This actually a trick that's pretty cool, I think. Oh, there.
What's this one called?
That one, that was a finger grind, like a green triangle.
A finger grind into a green triangle.
If I can hit it. Oh, here's a thing called a vanish grind, like that.
How long have you been yo-yoing?
Like, started about November last year.
November of last year, so we're about a year now.
Yeah, I mean not November,
He's-
like real.
He's been yo-yoing about a year, so pretty impressive.
A year and actually.
Okay, that one's pretty wicked. What would you just do? What is that? That whatever that was pretty wicked.
This thing.
Yeah, do that one again. Let's finish with that. That's crazy.
Oh wait, I have one more.
Okay, one more. Last one.
Okay. And then you can also do like boom and then go into it there. You can go into all sorts of stuff.
Holy cow. All right, buddy. Well, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Appreciate all your support. And we shall see you next time.